What up, world? It's been a wild week, and I want to talk about it. So here we go. The first thing I want to say is just kind of like a random thought of the day. I got on TikTok, spiritual TikTok, and that was a mistake. I feel like there should be a word of caution to those types of things. A lot of those people, they're telling you how you feel. And they're telling you how other people feel. And I think that that is the real reason why people are there, is to know and understand how others are feeling. But there's still like a real danger in having somebody tell you how you feel, or, and then you listening to it. And I think that the real gangsters of spirituality are people who point you to yourself, right? Because the real quest for growth within yourself is you looking at you. The OGs know that. So the OGs will take you to the door and they'll give you the tools necessary to bust that bitch open. But then they leave because they know that you have to do that for yourself. So I think, I guess that's my word of caution. I don't want to be super preachy, but I feel like it needs to be said. Like, the good ones will bring you to yourself, and then they'll just kind of nudge you along, and that's what we need to be doing. So anyways, random thought of the day, had to say it. Okay, so I work for an entity that is broke. We do not have the resources that we need to accomplish the mission. And there's a lot of people, out there doing way more than they need to be doing. And so because of this, I found myself helping out another entity, another part of the group that I work for this last week. And that looked like me standing in a warehouse, counting trees with reggaeton blaring and just a group of Latinos, everybody working hard. Okay. And before I would go to work, I would go sit in this cafe and they would play the news, which I don't normally listen to, at least not like this kind of news. And it was fear-mongering. It was hate. It was, somebody telling me that I need to feel a certain way about a group of people. That this group of people is out to get me and that we need to remove these people. And it freaked me out. I hated it. So then I go to work and, working's good. It was actually a really good time. But there's a definite mood about, with people feeling like overworked, overran. And people keep bringing up this analogy of feeling like they are on a sinking ship. Okay, this has happened more than once to me. And so I feel like I need to share with you guys like this meditation that I do to calm myself down when I get super stressed about the state of the world, when I feel like personally I'm on a sinking ship. I get all panicky. This is for my panicky bitches. I'll do this meditation. And it just so happens that this meditation is about a ship. Really ironic, huh? So, yeah, that's what I'm going to share with you. It's a meditation that I use to calm myself down when I'm feeling like shit. But I also use it as a tool of self-exploration. So, here we go. Okay, so when I find myself stressed about the news and being a part of a broke-ass entity, what I do is imagine myself as a ship, okay? Lost in a dark sea. There's very little light. Waves are choppy. I'm not feeling good. And I just accept that I'm in that state. That's a good place to start, right? But you're in there, you're floating around, you're bobbing around, and you get a flash of light on the distance, on the horizon. And you know that there's a state of balance there. There's a peacefulness, a place that we can get to from this state to that state. You know, it's there. And you got a flash of it. You know it's there. You may not see it now, but it's there. Okay? And so you move your ship into that general direction and you start moving that way. With hope that it will pop back up, right? And eventually you get to this spot where it is on the horizon. It's there. It's very far away, but it's there. And you know that you can get there. So you just keep on trucking. Moving towards it. You felt it before, you can feel it again. And there's a certain worry that sheds when you get to that point. And so you keep going, and you keep going, and it's closer and it's closer, right? And you can start to feel like the little bits of what that is, that balance, that calm, ridding yourself from the dark bullshit, the feeling of being lost. You get closer and you get closer. Eventually you get to the point where you start to feel more of that state of balance than you feel the being lost at sea. And you keep moving and moving, and sometimes you gotta move your ship back and forth. Like, it's not gonna be just a straight shot. You have to take a second to acknowledge that you've swayed a bit, and then you go right back. Okay, and then eventually you get to the spot where you're in the light, right? You found the peace, the balance, the state of goodness again. And if I do ever get there, I want to wallow in it. I'll sit there for a second, enjoy it, but also recognize that you may never get there. Sometimes I'll do this and I'll end up somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I don't even make it past the beginning. It's a process to go from a state of upset, from turmoil, into something that feels balanced and peaceful. And so yeah, I'll do this visualization, with just the feeling of turmoil to balance. Just feel it. You don't necessarily need to put any sort of mental thing to it. But then other times I will put sort of a mental thing to it, and I'll use it as a tool of self-exploration. And that's where it gets a bit more complicated, so I'm going to stop it and then start it again. Okay, so how I use this meditation for self-exploration is incredibly difficult to explain. I made this video 1,000 times. I'm trying, you guys. Okay, so I enter into this meditative state, right? And I use, the darkness of being a ship lost at sea as an analogy for myself. The darkness is me. It's the pieces of me that I dislike about myself. It's the things that I fear. It's my apprehensions, all of the weirdness that we feel as humans. And it's important to note that the darkness is relative to you. Each of us have our own thing, our own shames, our own hurdles that we must overcome. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll enter into my state, and I'm a ship lost in the darkness. And I start to look at the things that are the darkness, what it is that I fear. I think probably the best one that I can share with you would be selfishness. That's a piece of my darkness, is I'm incredibly selfish. And I will dive into it, look at it, explore it. Different ways that I'm selfish, why I'm being selfish, what are my motives behind that actually. Just look at it. But don't forget, right? You're going to have your flash of light on the horizon. Find, if you don't know what it is, find it. Whatever it is that is the counter to that. I have this realization that sometimes, I am actually pretty giving. And I'll point my ship in that direction, and I'll move that way, and I'll explore. Why am I giving? What am I giving? What are other instances, Move towards that. Okay? And eventually you'll get to this point where you realize that you are just so intensely both of those things. You are the shitty darkness, but you are also the radiant light. And I think that there's a certain power that comes when you can start to hold those two pieces of yourself. Self-realization, coming to know yourself intimately, looks like being able to hold the duality of yourself gently. In some ways, like, it allows you to release the shame of the darkness that you feel, but it also holds you accountable to that, right? You get the best of both worlds. And I think that once you enter into that state, it becomes easier just to move about in life, because there are instances where you need to be a little bit selfish, acts of self-preservation and looking out for you. That type of selfishness is okay. And, once you start to get into that state, you can move in a place that is, self-preservation, but you don't feel shame for it. But then you also are able to hold yourself accountable and be like, hey, I need to quit being a selfish little bitch in these instances in life. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're going for, right? So I think it's important to also remember to not get trapped. Okay, it's important to look at the parts that are dark, right? Because that's how you hold yourself accountable. But don't get trapped there. Do not wallow in it. You need to also realize that you're on the opposite side, that you are also the light. So, and then this is kind of where the medicine cards come in. I had a trippy dream this last week about blue heron. Came for a visit, and it's very, tangentially related to what I'm talking about with this meditation. So I just want to share with you a couple bits out of this. The medicine of heron is the ability to accept all feelings and opinions without denying any emotion or thought. It's about developing your self-reflective skills so that you may come to know yourself in an intimate way. The medicine of heron is to look at your inner strengths and your inner weaknesses, right? And when you can find balance between those things, you will learn to meet the challenges of your personal weaknesses, and you will develop skills that lead to inner strength and certainty of purpose. So to me, my meditation is kind of just like an exercise in doing this. Self-improvement is best accomplished by balancing the desire to change with gentle discernment. So don't be freaking too hard on yourself, right? It's all good, okay? Heron reminds you to dive deeply, but do not hold your breath while waiting for instant and total enlightenment. Like, it's not all going to happen at once. It's a process. Peeling back layers and balancing yourself. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. I find when I do these types of things, I enter into a more balanced state within myself. And that is so important, right? Because the state that you live in is the reality that you experience. The whole, like, a happy person lives in a happy world and an angry person lives in an angry world. That shit is true, right? So why not? Let's all of us try to reach a certain level of balance. And hopefully that collectively brings more balance. Okay, so I'll practice this meditation at the level of self, like as I've described, but then I'll also kind of like do it from a higher level perspective, if you will. I'll imagine the ship as like a collective consciousness, like my family, my community, my country, the world, everybody in this fucking ship. And the darkness, would be the things that freak me out, like, sitting in a cafe and listening to a news station tell me that I need to be fearful of immigrants and that we need to remove them. Or at least the undocumented ones, okay? So that to me is the fear, that's the choppiness of the world, and then the flash of light that I get on the horizon is standing in a warehouse with immigrants, dancing to reggaeton. Just they're people, observing them as people, and they don't speak the same language as me. I don't speak the same language as him, but as them. But there's things that unite us all as a people. And, you know, it's love, it's community, it's our family, it's a lot of different things. But, no, this week was a really weird exercise in all of that. So I will adjust my ship and orient it towards what feels good. And it is a room full of immigrants dancing to reggaeton. It is not the hate and fear-mongering that I experience on the television. So if you ever feel like you're sinking, do this, something. Yeah, I wish you all the best.